You have the right to say and feel however you want. That is a birthright. You're born with that right. So taking somebody out is not the way to do it. You want to fight about something, then go to the ballot box. Go elect different people. Killing people doesn't do anything except make it a horrible world for their children.
The issue with this sentiment and with a lot of the sentiments that I've seen is that we did take it to the ballot box. And Donald Trump was elected at least 2 times, right? He was put into office at least 2 times. And on that much, we can agree. And yet, for the past 10 years, including the 4 years that he was not in office because you knew that he was still a threat, you called him and his supporters fascist, Nazis, and white supremacists. And as I have previously said so many times this week, as so many people have previously said, that puts a target on our backs. Because, again, the reality is, if you believe that fascists are taking over your country and that they're in the White House and that they're actually successful right now in taking over your country or making a successful attempt at the moment to take over your country, you have a moral imperative to do something, and it is not to debate them. It puts a target on our backs because those are serious accusations, or at least they used to be serious accusations, and they have serious consequences. And by the way, historically, while we're on the subject, Nazis, fascists, white supremacists, they tell you who they are. There's no ambiguity about it. They don't make any bones about it. You don't have to sit there for years upon years and say, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist, you're a white supremacist, while they repeatedly deny it and say, no, I'm not, and actually get offended at the accusation. Typically, historically, that's not how Nazis and fascists and white supremacists act. They just let you know who they are. You don't have to insist repeatedly that they are those things while they continue to deny it. You don't have to cut their words out of context. You don't have to take their words out of context. You don't have to cut a clip just so. You don't have to give half the quote and leave out the rest of the quote. You don't have to manipulate things. They just let you know who they are. And they're proud of it. And yet that's not what's been happening here. And so if you're sitting here telling me, by the way, that you are against Nazism, fascism, and white supremacy, and yet you continue to insist that a growing portion of the country, including at this point over half the voters, if November is any indication, that they're all Nazis, fascists, and white supremacists, then it actually seems like you're not against Nazism, fascism, and white supremacy. It actually seems like you're kind of for it. It seems like you're trying to create more self-identified Nazis, fascists, and white supremacists. It seems like you're trying to other people to the point where they finally just say, I guess I give up. I guess I am a Nazi, a fascist, and a white supremacist. So don't tell me that you're against those things if you are continuing to insist that someone is those things, even though they repeatedly deny it. Again, typically, these things aren't really ambiguous. You just know. It's the same thing that I brought up when Elon Musk was under fire for allegedly giving the Roman salute, right, at the celebration for Trump's inauguration. And yet, he allegedly gave that salute while he was saying something to the effect of, my heart goes out to you. And the question really is, okay, if you believe that this is a white supremacist country and that white supremacists have been emboldened by Donald Trump's now second win, why is it that a alleged white supremacist like Elon Musk is encroaching his supposed Roman salute in my heart goes out to you? Why doesn't he just do the Roman salute? No ambiguity? No question of, oh, was he just doing a gesture of my heart goes out to you, or was he really doing the Roman salute? If we live in such a white supremacist country and he's been emboldened, why isn't he just straight up doing the salute? And I have this question over and over and over again. You know, right now they're saying that Charlie Kirk said black women do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. And they are saying, they're putting quotes around that as if that's what he actually said. When what he actually said was that the likes of Michelle Obama, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and Joy Reid are the product of DEI hiring policies, and that those women do not have the brain power to be taken seriously. And again, my question is, and I had someone tell me this morning, oh, but that's what he meant. He meant all black women. No, I don't know that. And again, my question is, if you think that Charlie Kirk was such an unapologetic, avowed racist, then why didn't he just say it? Why didn't he just say, yeah, you know what? I do believe that. I do believe that black women don't have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. Why didn't he just say that? But he didn't. And so, again, my question is, why do you have to put quotes around something that's not actually a quote attributed to him? Why do you have to take things out of context? Why do you have to tell me, oh, you know what he meant? No, I don't know what he meant. And again, Nazis and fascists, white supremacists, they don't make any bones about it. They just let you know what they think. So, doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Doesn't seem like you're actually against Nazism, fascism, and white supremacy. Back to what Whoopi Goldberg said in this scenario. Take it to the ballot box. I'm not going to say that silence is violence, because that's a lie, and that's a tenet of the left. And I'm not going to say that opinions harm people, because that's a lie, and that's a tenet of the left. That's, again, something else that people have been saying about Charlie Kirk. Oh, he didn't deserve to die, but his opinions didn't harm people. I already told you guys, opinions don't harm people. But again, I am going to emphasize the fact that labeling people white supremacists, Nazis, and fascists is very, very dangerous. And we are seeing the consequences of it. Because, again, those things carry weight, or again, they used to, and it should mean something. It's not debating the merit of ideas. You are simply saying that because someone voted for Donald Trump, they are a Nazi, they are a fascist, they are a white supremacist, and then you're going to sit here and tell me that that doesn't put a target on people's backs. It does. Doesn't mean you have to become a Trump supporter. Doesn't mean you have to become a Republican. You can still disagree with us, but you have to admit that our ideas do not make us Nazis, fascists, and white supremacists. That the fact that we vote differently than you do not make us fascists, Nazis, and white supremacists. So it's all well and good right now in the immediate wake of a devastating assassination, a devastating public execution of an innocent man, one that has affected all of us, whether or not you liked Charlie Kirk, whether or not you personally are grieving his assassination. This has serious implications for America, if you care about America, which at this point it's questionable. If you care about the state of free speech and the free exchange of ideas in this country, this has serious implications. And it's all well and good to, in the wake of this terrible tragedy, which could have been prevented, to offer platitudes, to say, take it to the ballot box, to say, let's unite, to say political violence has no place in this country. And I'm not condemning anyone that has said those things, because they seem like the appropriate thing to say, right? It's better than celebrating this or mocking it or dismissing it, which we've seen a lot of as well. But at the same time, the real question is, what are you going to do moving forward when this stops being the front page of the news? Which is hard to fathom, that we're all just going to, move on, and that Charlie Kirk's assassination isn't going to be at the forefront of my mind someday is really hard to fathom. But someday it's not going to be in the news. It's not going to be all we talk about. It's not going to be fresh. And the question is, what are you going to do then? Are you going to continue to call people Nazis, fascists, and white supremacists when they say, no, I'm not those things, I just think differently than you? Are you going to continue to call the sitting president a Nazi, fascist, and a white supremacist, and thereby call anyone who votes for him a Nazi, fascist, and a white supremacist? Are you going to commit to reporting the truth, even when it goes against your worldview? Or are you going to continue to promote hoaxes? And this is something that's very close to my heart, because part of my leaving the left is I thought for 3 straight years, from 2017 to 2020, I believed that our sitting president at the time had called neo-Nazis very fine people. And I believed that because the media told me that was true. And at the time, I was someone who was on the left, and I was also largely apolitical. I did not pay attention, which I take ownership for, but I wasn't paying attention, and I believed, because I had no reason not to believe it at the time, that the media was reporting the truth to me. And it wasn't until 2020 when COVID came around and I realized they're lying to me about certain things, like COVID, that I started to look into other things like Donald Trump. And in fact, I started looking into Donald Trump because at the time, he felt like, especially to someone who was politically uninitiated, he felt like the only one who was talking about opening up the country. And I told you guys I really needed to go back to work. I help out certain family members financially. Like, I needed to go back to work, and it was clear that COVID was not going to impact me in the way that it was impacting the truly vulnerable, like the elderly and the obese and the sick. And Donald Trump seemed like one of the only guys, if not the only guy in charge, who was on my side. And so I started looking into him. And that was when I realized in 2020 that, in fact, 3 years prior, he had not said there's very fine people on both sides, including the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists. In fact, he had said the exact opposite. The rest of the quote was, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists because they should be condemned totally. And in fact, he condemns them twice in that one press conference alone. And then I went on YouTube and I found a bunch of compilations of him condemning white supremacy over and over and over and over throughout the years. And we had been told that he refused to do that. They were telling us in the debate, in the election cycle that was going on in 2020, Kamala and Joe Biden were insisting that he refused to condemn white supremacy. And in fact, he had not. It's all over YouTube throughout the years. He's probably publicly condemned white supremacy more than any other president. And yet, I had believed a lie. As an intelligent person, is what I like to think of myself as. I think I'm pretty intelligent. I had believed a lie. And I cannot tell you the level of betrayal that felt like. And this is not unique to me. It is part of everyone's story who's walked away, who's left the Democrat Party. It is part of their story. You will hear this over and over again. If it's not about the Charlottesville thing, then it's about something else. Just realizing the way the media lies to you. And my next realization was that, okay, if Trump was really the bad guy that they said, if he was really Hitler 2.0, they wouldn't have to lie about him. They wouldn't have to make up these hoaxes. They wouldn't have to cut off the second half of the quote. They wouldn't have to cut off the second half of the clip. They wouldn't have to write the headline highlighting only the first part of the quote and not the second part of the quote. They could just be honest, because here he is, this terrible guy, and he is literally telling us who he is, and it's right there. It's the full quote. You don't have to manipulate anything. And I realized, okay, there's no way he is as bad as they're saying. And that's what I've seen over and over and over again with hoax after hoax after hoax after hoax. And these have been promoted by people like Whoopi Goldberg. I'm sorry. So it is all well and good to say, take it to the ballot box. But when Americans do take it to the ballot box, and then you call us white supremacists, fascists, and Nazis for taking it to the ballot box, and then you make up hoaxes because you don't like the result of us taking it to the ballot box, don't tell me that you don't have some culpability here, because you do. And the real question isn't, are you going to condemn this political assassination in the immediate wake of it, because that's a low bar. It should be a given. It's not what we're seeing with the modern day left, unfortunately, because a lot of them are not condemning it, refusing to condemn it. They're dismissing it, and they're even celebrating it and mocking it. But the real question isn't are you going to offer platitudes in the immediate wake of this assassination? It's what are you going to do moving forward? How are you going to be different? Are you going to be committed to the truth? Because at the end of the day, I'm sorry, you know, I watched Destiny on the Piers Morgan program yesterday, and I'm sure a lot of you saw it. I was posting all over my other socials about it. I hadn't made a video about it, but I was just posting incessantly about it. And over and over from him on that program, and his appearance was especially vile. He refused to condemn this assassination, repeatedly blamed Republicans, repeatedly denied facts that the investigation has now found, which is that he was radicalized by left-wing ideology. He did have a romantic relationship with a roommate who was trans. All of these things. He clearly hated Charlie Kirk. That should go without saying, because he shot him. And Destiny's appearance was particularly egregious, but I keep seeing all over social media, oh, Republicans have to do this and this. Republicans have to tone down the rhetoric. Republicans, what about Melissa Hortman? What about this? What about that? Here's the reality. What happened to Charlie Kirk is not comparable to anything else, and I condemn all political violence. I do. I have no problem condemning it, but it was a public assassination. It was a public execution that the entire world saw, that children at the event saw, families at the event saw. I mean, this was on another level. And it was of someone who was not a politician. Again, he was just inviting people to public debate. He was just speaking his mind. They keep denigrating him as just a podcaster. Okay, well, in your words, he was just a podcaster and he lost his life for it. So I condemn all political violence, but this is not comparable. This is something that is reminiscent of the late 1960s. It is something that we have not experienced in our lifetimes. And on top of that, I'm sorry, I don't think that the onus right now is on Republicans to tone down the rhetoric, to turn down the temperature, because we are the ones that are on self-defense mode right now. We have this situation where, by all accounts, with all the information that we have thus far, the shooter used language like, hey, fascist catch on a bullet casing, Ciao Bella, the anti-fascist song, from the 1940s, we have the indications that the shooter used this language, again, fascist, thinking Charlie Kirk was a fascist, thinking right-wingers were fascists, that is used by the mainstream of the Democrat Party, not by the fringes of the left, but by the mainstream Democrat Party. And so I believe that in this instance, it's left-wingers who need to look in the mirror. It's Democrats who need to look in the mirror. It's anyone who has called Trump and his supporters fascists and Nazis and white supremacists who need to look in the mirror and tone down the rhetoric, because we cannot tone down the temperature, tone down the rhetoric with people who insist that we're Nazis, fascists, and white supremacists. We're on self-defense, and we have been for years. We can't turn down the rhetoric with people who would cheer on seeing us killed. Because I said already, I probably hold a bit more radical viewpoints than Charlie Kirk did. So if you're cheering on his death, then what would you do over mine? What would you do over my loved ones if they were left behind in the wake of my tragic death? I mean, if you're cheering on Charlie Kirk, who again was not a radical, was just a really big Trump supporter and a Christian, you would cheer on a lot of us dying. Most of us dying, actually. And I can't say the same about you. Again, as I've said repeatedly here and elsewhere throughout this week, if you're a Democrat, if you're a liberal, I think you're uninformed. That's it. I don't think you're evil. I don't think you're inherently evil. I think some of your ideas are evil, but I don't think you are evil, and I just think you're uninformed, and I don't want you to die. But it seems to me like a whole heck of a lot of Democrats can't say the same to me. And in fact, I have Democrats in my family, my immediate family. And I'm not going to say that it's not hard sometimes, but I don't want anyone to die. I don't believe anyone's evil. I love some Democrats. I love some liberals. I love some people who voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But a whole lot of people on the left want to isolate from anyone who voted for Trump, from anyone who's a Republican, from anyone who's a right-winger. They want you to leave behind your friends and family. They want you to never speak to them again. They want you to know that they are fascists, they are white supremacists, they are Nazis, and we cannot unite with that. We cannot unite with people who believe that we are inherently evil for having a different point of view. And so I'm sorry, the onus right now is on the left. That's where the onus is. When we have an assassination to this level, where, again, by all accounts thus far, the shooter is using language that was promoted by the mainstream of the Democrat Party, by left-wing legacy media, then we have to seriously look in the mirror if we're on the left and we were promoting that language. We can't sit here and point fingers at the right and say, you guys do it first, because the right is on self-defense right now. And I guess that's all I want to say about that today, but it just blew my mind when Whoopi said that, because we did take it to the ballot box, and we've been called fascists for it. And she's not the only one. She's not the only one, offering these platitudes, and then in the next breath, they're going to go right on calling Trump a fascist and a white supremacist. Again, speech is not violence, but it does have serious implications, and you should be mindful and intentional with your words. And that's where we're at right now. And this is not, at the moment, a both sides thing. The onus is on the left to stop demonizing, again, the majority of American voters at this point. If November was any indication, the majority of American voters as Nazis, fascists, and white supremacists, because that has serious and deadly consequences. Okay. I've had a lot of new subscribers on here in the past week, and I really appreciate it. Welcome to all of you. Eventually, I want to start making videos that aren't about this, but I just can't seem to talk about anything else but this, or to think about anything else but this, just to be honest. And the reactions I've seen, I mean, my entire For You page on X is pretty much just awful person being awful after awful person being awful, and it's really hard to look at, and it's been hurting my soul and like impacting my faith in humanity, and I don't know how to focus on other news right now, or other issues, or other discussions, and I just really do feel that we are at a turning point right now. Like so many people have said, this is a really serious tipping point in America. And platitudes at this moment, while I appreciate someone not publicly celebrating this execution, as so many have, or dismissing it, platitudes at this moment are not enough. And I have so many other things I want to say about it. Please, if you guys are new here and you like my content, if you want, follow me on X and follow me on Instagram, because I post a lot more there. I mean, it's just harder for me to sit down and make a long form video. And I'm able to just put out my thoughts really quick on X and on Instagram. So if you like what you see here, I highly recommend following me there, because you're just going to get more from me in general. But I will be back again very soon, and we'll talk again very soon. And I'm praying for everyone right now, and I'm praying for America. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Conservative group Turning Point USA has condemned the group of neo-Nazis and said they have nothing to do with the organization.
Yeah, but where was DeSantis is what I want to know.
But you let them in.
President, open your
You
mouth.
let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit. We'll be right back. Make a quick clarification about the neo-Nazis at the Turning Point event. They were outside protesters. My point was more metaphorical, that you embraced them at your thing, I felt. They were not in the building.
They felt
but you know what?
invited.
Okay, let me just make sure that everybody, because misunderstanding what people say is very big.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure I know they were not in the building, but they were in the mix of people at the thing.
You know how bad.
And it's like a half apology, but I'm not the person to ask, because she didn't smear me. She smeared our students. So they're the ones that you got to ask. I mean, look, I'm not going to stop fighting for my students. And look, I mean, I understand the heart to, let's say the intent to offer an apology. All right, after the third or fourth time, after they're forced under lawyer pressure to do that. But look, it's really about our students. And that's why we acted so forcefully with this. You should not be able to go after minors and smear them as Nazis and get away with it. And it was only until we sent a cease and desist letter did we actually get an apology. Think about that. I think it's more about, please forgive me because I don't want to be Nicholas Sandman than if I'm really sorry. So look, I'm not one to I'm not going to judge people's motives. I doubt them with Whoopi Goldberg, but you're going to have to ask our students, because she's the one, she targeted them at the core.